G'day YouTube, how the heck we doing? It is Foul Play here, back for the fourth match of this modern league. First thing, I will dominate here, and I have actually versed this fellow before. It's not the real Dom from League of Legends, but it's a Dom nonetheless. I remember I talked to him last time. He's not on an aggro deck, which is why I was confused whether or not it was the real guy or not. League Dom does actually play Arena, just for the record. Oh goodness, is this a shadow deck? That's pretty annoying. So I'm guessing Daybreak Coronet gets eaten up here. We're gonna have a very painful hand, putting ourselves down to 14. Although normally they'd be running Thoughtseize, so unless this is like the 5th and 6th copy of Thoughtseize, they take the Rancor. Probably means a second discard effect, but another Rancor off the top, interestingly enough. This plays like well into Hitchitsugu, which is not nothing, really. So we'll double up on our guy and attack in for 4. Bam! Opponent's on 13. We're suddenly winning the very scary race that for opponents on Shadow, I don't know how we get there, short of top decking Grifspoon or Spirit Mantle. Alright, so opponent passing, essentially holding up Drown in the Lock here, which I'm not really very incentivized to play into. I think we'll just go ahead and attack for 4 damage here and play a Bogle post-combat. Yeah. Opponent can also fetch Shocks for 7 damage, putting themselves to 6. What is going on now? Snapcaster Mage. Very interesting. Speaking of 5 years ago, as I was talking about in the last video, Snapcaster Mage has made an appearance, strangely enough. So we're going to trample a bit of damage, Totem Armor will trigger, and then we're going to be able to resolve our Daybreak Coronet post-combat, which is kind of nice. And there's Fatty Death Shadow from our opponent that can be buffed up in a pinch with the Bloodstained Mire they've got there. Drawing to Ethereal Armor and to Grifspoon really here. Maybe another Daybreak as well would do it. Of course, playing around like Lightning Bolt in addition makes things a bit dicier. If we're playing around Lightning Bolt, we need to see specifically Grifspoon. Alright, well it's not nothing, so I guess we'll play it out and see if our opponent's got the counter effect. So in response to Hyena Umbra, we're seeing the Bloodstained Mire being fetched here. Guess it's Drown in the Lock at this point. Oh, only taking 1 point of damage, so this goes to 7 power. I mean, 7 power is manageable. Play out our guy, no attacks. So most of these Grixis Shadow decks actually have Gigantha as a companion. Oh god, opponent, could you stop drawing these rubbish effects here, man? What do I even do? As we play this out in case they've got Brazen Borrower, so we don't get 2 for 1. Grixis gets like recast from the graveyard post counterspell. But this could be a sign, the fact no Gigantha, that our opponent is playing Street Wraith, which could be a card to play around. Alright, so we still can't attack because Bloodstained Mire is sitting there ruining our day. Instead, our opponent has cracked the Bloodstained Mire. And that's a tapped Watery Grave. Opponent hard passing back to us. We see another Aura, so we'll try to play it and we'll try to get past Counter Magic. We'll try to deplete our opponent's hand of Counter Magic. There's a Remand. Oh my goodness, like this deck's absolutely just screams flavor of like 2015, right? Okay, so now if we attack, we've got Totem Armor, so if our opponent Lightning Bolts themselves, we're actually in an okay spot, so I think we can attack here. And we can attack wide as well. This is bad against like Echoing Truth, Brazen Borrower. See what happens. I think it's right to actually pressure them like this. Alright, so because of the first strike, we're fine here. We'll kill the Death Shadow before this one deals damage, so we won't grow it during combat step. It'll be post first strike damage, and we just have to see if they've got the Brazen Borrower effect here. So Lightning Bolt their own face, trading off with the Hyena Umbra. Bogle puts them to 1 life afterwards. Okay, so they need to put forward another blocker next turn, or else we can kill them by attacking wide. All right, well, we'll just go ahead and attack all out, and hopefully we get there. Oh my god, another Snapcaster Mage from our opponent? All right, this is really bad for us here. I think at this point, we're pretty far behind, unfortunately. Damn, that sucks so much. Man, oh man. Well, we've got a Will and a Way. Maybe we get Griff Spoon off the top and we can kill next turn off the rebuild. Alright, well... Oh, this resolved. They've actually given Remand flashback. I don't think we give them the card draw from Remand. I think we just let that fizzle out. There's a chance they don't cast the Remand, but let's just assume our opponent plays correctly. Opponent Ragavan attacks with Ragavan. Trigger Spider Umbra off the top. Well, Spider Umbra is not Griff Spoon, so you can happily have that opponent. Alright, and Ragavan back to hand. Daybreak Coroner off the top. Alright, we'll start this off with Rancor, see how our opponent responds. Oh, Spider Umbra on the Death Shadow, that's kind of terrifying. Alright, now we can give Trample, give Vigilance, pardon me, Sentinel's Eyes. Alright, the Monkey is getting dashed again from our opponent. Alright, there's that one attacking in. No blocks from us. We have to pray they don't see the Griff Spoon, or else this thing getting flying. Oh, they've got Spider Umbra, so flying's not even that good. We want to see specifically Spirit Mantle at 1 copy. Second Death Shadow, and you're still not attacking with this guy? Seems weird. They're playing unusually conservative here. Not what we want to see, but I mean, let's Daybreak and force them to have some description of counter magic. Our opponent does actually have 25 damage here on the board. If they dash Ragavan, I guess we can block the Ragavan and live, but we'll have to like see if they can do a basic calculation here, because I'm assuming they can. Maybe we should even concede to that Mishra's Bubble so they don't get that extra information of 1 card. Well, they play the Ragavan, but at sorcery speed. And they just attack with 1 creature. Alright, well, we don't have Totem Armor, so I'm glad they didn't do that differently. Also, no Team of Battle Rage, so go team. Alright, Mishra's Bobble, Trigger, and Plains off the top. Alright, well, we'll concede at that. Alright, so here we can see a Grixis Shadow list our opponent played back in August last year. We can see this particular version of the list had Legislator, Croxer. We saw pretty much the other creatures. Creature removal of Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, Unholy Heat, Drown in the Lock, also counter magic of Drown in the Lock. Oh, Terminators, creature removal too. Plenty of creature removal. Obviously, we saw other cards like Snapcaster Mage this game. Engineered Explosives over here. Dress Down. Okay, so we did have Snapcaster Mage in the sideboard over here as well. Alright, well, let's see how we do in sideboarding. Reminder as well, guys, if you find this video entertaining or informative, please consider subscribing. Alright, so we will bring in our Leyline of Sanctities to protect our creatures from discard, also to protect ourselves from like an Engineered Explosives. Bring in Solitude as well, because it's really good interaction for our opponent's creatures. Audacity is probably the weakest card, followed by Spider Umbra, I reckon. At which point we can take out 2 Light Paws to round it out. Having some number of Light Paws to rebuild post Engineered Explosives could be good. Though, no, Spider Umbra is good into Engineered Explosives. Is there something else I want to take out? Not hugely, maybe just Light Paws. I think leave it as it is. There's not that much guaranteed that they have Engineered Explosives, and if they do, it might only be 1 copy. Alright, we have a no creature hand here, so we'll mulligan. No land hand, we'll mulligan. Alright, so we see this 5-card hand with discard protection and evasion, so we'll keep this one. I think that's about the perfect hand that we could have seen. The only other card that we might have wanted instead was like an Ethereal Armor instead of Rancor, but this is still an extremely good 5. We just see Razorverge Thicket off the top, so we'll cast our Rancor, see how our opponent responds. And that one does resolve, so we'll follow it up with Griff Spoon now. And doesn't look like any Spell Pierce, so we get to attack for 4 damage here, putting our opponent to 16, and then they'll crack their fetch land. I think it's going to be for a tapped land at this point. Yeah, so they're not playing aggressively into their shadows, that's fine by me. Alright, so opponent plays Swamp into Chalice of the Void, and this Glade Cover Scout is turned off, but it's not too bad. We'll just attack, put our opponent to 11 and keep pressuring them. Oh, good. Oh, God. Legislator is going to be able to block our creature out. We don't have any Force of Vigors in the deck. Currently, they're all in sideboard. We have one Besage we can draw to. Blood Crypt from our opponent. Sentinel's Eyes off the top isn't going to be good enough either. We can leave this in hand for maybe a Solitude in the future, though, which could be a way to get past Legislator. And now we see everyone's favorite Expressive Iteration. And Thoughtseize into exile there. Are they going to Thoughtseize themselves? They are. Countered by Chalice of the Void. Okay. So this gave our opponent a Connive trigger on Legislator. And of course we find another 1 mana creature. Oh man, this is a pretty rough one at the minute. We can find Daybreak Coronet and get that past counter magic. That would be really good. Alright, so another Expressive Iteration from our opponent. And this time a 0 mana spell into exile there on the Mishra's Bauble. And Legislator, Connive off the Mishra's Bauble, growing that creature again. And now Ragavan gets discarded, and that is a bizarre card to be discarding. You'd think you'd want to be dashing that out and hitting me and gaining value, but here we are. I guess it gets countered by Chalice of the Void. Never mind, I'm a complete fool. And Mishra's Bauble targeting themselves. Crap. They shuffle with Scalding Tarn. Hopefully this is tapped. I don't want to see a shadow here. Oh dear God, no. Oh dear. Okay, it's Legislator. Well, that's not as bad. And right when the world needed him most, he found a plains. Oh God. That would have been the perfect draw to draw Spirit Mantle or Daybreak Coronet, but alas, not to be. And Sorcerer Speed, Snapcaster Mage, targeting Expressive Iteration. Opponent getting Value City here at the moment. And on top of digging 3 cards deep, they get to Connive too. We see a Shadow discarded. At least our opponent's Death Shadows are turned off. That's kind of nice. And a Scalding Tarn discarded. Polluted Delta from exile onto the battlefield. You'd think our opponent would want to attack with these Legistrators. Another dead draw, how unfortunate. These Sentinel's Eyes actually have a secondary ability. If you're running Core Spirit Dancer in the deck, it can help you draw a bunch of cards through Chalice of the Void. And every time you escape it, you still get a draw trigger off the cast effect. Okay. So do we just wait for our opponent to have a big turn and then Daybreak Coronet on our creature? I think we just hang out until they tap more mana. Because they're not even attacking wide with this Legislator, and it makes very little sense. So end of turn, Polluted Delta into tapped Watery Grave. And Bloodstain Mire into tapped Steam Vents. So opponent casts Rise and return target creature from the graveyard and target creature from the battlefield to their owner's hands. Okay, so bouncing Snapcaster Mage and returning Death Shadow to hand. And then plays out the Death Shadow, triggering Legislator and Chalice the Void trigger as well. We can see a couple of Death Shadows discarded to the Connive there, so that makes plenty of sense. Opponent currently holding up 2 potential copies of Drown in the Loch. Still not attacking us, still not pressuring us. Oh my God, and we find Besage. Okay, that's a pretty good find. Let's pass the turn. Now we can get Sentinel's Eyes online as well, potentially. Although maybe we don't want to. Interesting. If we do that, our opponent gets Death Shadow live. No blocks from us. So if we besage you this Chalice of the Void, we can play Sentinel's Eyes. We still can't get the power and toughness where it needs to be though. I think we probably need to do this though. See if our opponent starts countering any of our effects. There's even potential to reload onto a second creature post everything. Like if we're just to trade these guys off. Alright, so there's one copy of Drown in the Loch from our opponent. I think we just want to get as many copies of Drown in the Loch out of our opponent's hand as possible at the moment. Legislative triggers here. Expressive Iteration discarded. That's terrifying. If an opponent is discarding Expressive Iteration, discards Shadow as well. Has our opponent forgotten that Chalice of the Void's off the battlefield? Very interesting stuff. Played another creature and passed the turn. I wonder if they're ruining their effects here. Drown in the Loch as well. Okay, perfect. Well, that's really good to see them using Drown in the Loch on cards we don't care about versus cards we do. So they actually discarded a Drown in the Loch to that Connive trigger to grow these guys. That's absolute madness. 1, 2, 3. I guess they can have Snapcaster Mage, target Drown in the Loch. When it plays out a singular copy of Death Shadow attacking with the Legistrators now. Wonder if they know we have flying. We're 1 damage off killing them. It's not helpful, but Sentinel's Eyes is. See what our opponent does to us casting Daybreak Coronet here. I've done this completely wrong. Remand. Okay. Let's really test our opponent here. Exile these guys. Yeah, Legislator triggers, don't care about those ones. So Ragavan discarded. That's the 3rd Ragavan to the grave. And Mish's Bobble discarded. And that resolves. So we're actually at a point where we can attack, fly over, and potentially deal lethal, assuming there's no interaction from our opponent. Oh god, opponent plays Dress Down, and that's going to be enough to get them the victory. This will go to a 13 power creature as well. That's like such horrible tech for us. No Totem Armor effect either to keep our guy, plus opponent's got well and truly lethal on the board. Alright, well, GG to our opponent. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to let me know down below. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you then.